Good afternoon, everyone, and we want to thank you for joining our webinar today with National Disability Institute on Social Security Disability Insurance, SSDI, and SSDI work incentives. Today's webinar is made available through funding from the Texas Council for Developmental Disabilities, and we thank them for that funding. If you're listening to the webinar today, the audio for today's webinar is being broadcast through your computer. Please make sure your speakers are turned on or your headphones are plugged in. You can control the audio broadcast via the audio broadcast panel. And if you accidentally close the panel, you can reopen it from the top menu item, look for Communicate, and then join audio broadcast. If you do not have sound capabilities on your computer, or you prefer to listen by phone, you can dial these numbers here: 650-479-3207. Please don't forget to put in your meeting code, 290-556-026. You do not need to enter an attendee ID. Closed captioning is being provided today by Caption Colorado, and we thank them greatly for joining us and providing this captioning. It is real-time captioning, and the captions can be found in the Media Viewer panel, which appears in the lower right corner of the webinar platform. If you want to make that Media Viewer panel larger, you can minimize other panels like the chat, Q&A, and/or participant function to be able to see the Media Viewer panel easier. For submitting questions today, either during Q&A or throughout the session, please use the chat box or the Q&A box to send any questions you have during the webinar to myself, Katie Metz, and we will direct the questions accordingly during the Q&A section. If you're listening by phone and not logged into the webinar, you may also ask questions by emailing questions to aawosika@ndi-inc.org. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and the materials will be made public and sent out to all participants who have registered for today's event within 2 weeks of the event. For any technical assistance questions today, if you experience them during the webinar, please use the chat box to send a message to the host, Aramide Awashka, or you may also email them to the email provided before, aawosika@ndi-inc.org. My name again is Katie Metz. I'm today's moderator. I am a manager of financial empowerment inclusion with the National Disability Institute, and I welcome you all here today. Our agenda will include an overview of the Social Security Disability Insurance, otherwise known as SSDI, the impact of work on SSDI benefits, where to turn for assistance, financial capability resources, and then we'll wrap up with a Q&A as well as suggested next steps and our final wrap-up. With that, I wanted to give a special thank you once again to the Texas Council for Developmental Disabilities and welcome today's presenter, Elizabeth Jennings, who is our Deputy Director at the National Disability Institute. Elizabeth is a national trainer on Social Security benefits and asset development strategies for persons with disability. She has extensive experience in building and expanding relationships between the disability and asset building communities. Her decades-long experience includes spearheading asset development initiatives, creating collaborative agreements, executing grant allocations, providing technical assistance on federal disability policy, and assisting individuals in job development and understanding the effect of work on public benefits. So with that, I leave you in very good hands with our expert on the topic of SSDI. Elizabeth?
Thank you, Katie, so much. And I just want to say a quick thank you again to Aramide and to our captioner, all of whom are making today's presentation happen. So for those of you who are new to National Disability Institute, I just want to take a moment to make sure you know a little bit about us. We're a national research and development organization with a unique mission. Our mission is to promote income preservation and asset development for persons with disabilities and to build a better economic future for Americans with disabilities. And as many of you know, when you want to look at economic empowerment and financial inclusion, it all starts with work. And for excuse me, I'm getting a little choked up talking to you today. My apologies. For the many of you on the line who are working in employment services, and for the 15 roughly million people who receive a Social Security disability benefit, understanding disability benefits can become a barrier to employment. And so through the work of the Texas Council for Developmental Disabilities, we have this opportunity today, and we'll have 2 more webinars over the next few months to help you increase your knowledge about Social Security disability benefits, and to learn more in our final webinar of the 3, to learn more about the new ABLE accounts and how you can help to set people on a path towards greater financial stability. So today we're only going to talk about Social Security disability insurance. The webinar was prepared for people in the state of Texas, but we had some additional room, so we extended it nationally. SSDI, the rules are national, so all of you can apply this information regardless of where you are. I even saw some folks from my home state of Florida on today. When we get to the end and we talk about Medicaid buy-in, that is going to be specific to Texas. And then at the very end, we provide some resources for financial capability. That's a mix. Some is specific to Texas and some is available across the country. I am going to provide my contact information and Katie Metz's contact information. As you know, we do work nationally, and we're happy to connect you to resources should you need them after today. Okay, so let's dive right in. We're going to give just a little brief overview of Social Security disability benefits. As many of you know, the Social Security Administration has 2 programs to support individuals with disabilities who experience an inability to work at a substantial level. And we're going to talk about what that means in just a few minutes. One is Social Security Disability Insurance, or SSDI, which we're going to talk about today. And the other is Supplemental Security Income, or SSI, which we're going to talk about on our next webinar, which is tentatively set for May 30th. Same time, 12 noon for those of us in Central Time, 1 p.m. for those of us in Eastern Time. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to do the math for the rest of the country. Many people with disabilities who receive SSDI or SSI, they do want to work and make that return to work, but they're unsure of what will happen to their benefits. And these are critical benefits that are important to their sustainability, and oftentimes the most important benefit is the health care benefit, which we're going to touch upon today. Social Security does provide work incentives that make it possible for people to test their ability to work and to continue to receive some or all of their cash or health benefits. And we're going to talk about that today. But to start, individuals have to meet, my apologies, I'm just choking up here. To start, individuals have to prove that they are eligible to receive SSDI. So they have to prove that they have a documented medical disability that will last 12 months or longer or result in death. They also have to prove that they meet SSA's definition of disability, which is the inability to engage in substantial gainful activity, or SGA, which is paid work, by reason of any documented medical impairment, physical or mental, that will last 12 months or longer or result in death. So you'll have to forgive me, those of you who've heard me present before, but my favorite demonstration of this is Christopher Reeves, our own first Superman. Maybe he wasn't first, forgive me. But Christopher Reeves incurred a spinal cord injury. Anybody who watched that happen or knew of him post-accident would argue that he was definitely a person who had a documented medical disability that lasted more than 12 months and really resulted in his passing. But Social Security could argue that that documented disability did not prevent him from engaging in substantial gainful activity, and so he would not meet Social Security's definition of disability. This isn't an or, it's an and. A person has to meet both of the sides of the definition, a documented medical impairment that will last 12 months or longer or result in death, and the inability to engage in SGA. So let's take a minute to talk about what SGA is. It's a basic test used by SSA to establish disability status and continued eligibility for cash benefits. It's the performance of significant mental and/or physical duties for profit. It's usually determined to be gross earnings, which is before taxes, of a set amount of money determined each calendar year based on the National Average Wage Index. So that's really to tell you that the number changes each year. And to meet this test, a person must not be working, or if working, earning less than the established SGA amount. So for 2017, the SGA amount for non-blind individuals is $1,170 per month, and for blind individuals, it's $1,950 per month. And I gave you the numbers for 2016 because sometimes people hold to a certain number, and I wanted you to see how the numbers change. So you may hear from somebody who says, well, I was told I'm not allowed to earn more than some number that's less than $1,000 a month. They may be referring to an SGA level from several years ago, or they may be referring to another number. But it often happens, I have seen, that people are told a ceiling, and they kind of hold to that. And we're going to talk today about why that ceiling isn't exactly where you think it is. So we're going to talk about SGA for the rest of the day. I want to encourage you that you don't need to memorize these numbers, and there's not a lot of value to them because they change every year. So it's always good to just write them down, and you can also pull up on Social Security's website these numbers anytime you need them, or print out each year the changes in the COLA, which give you the numbers for the new year and the numbers for the last year. And the changes in the COLA is COLA. It's the cost of living index that impacts the Social Security numbers each year. So once a person has proven that they meet the definition of disability, Social Security will look at their application to assess if they're going to qualify for Social Security Disability Insurance, SSDI, or Supplemental Security Income, SSI, or both. Some people do receive both, and we're going to talk about that when we do our SSI webinar next month. So to qualify for SSDI, the individual needs to have the required work credits, or some people don't, and they qualify as a disabled adult child, which means that they became disabled prior to age 22. They're not legally married to a non-Title II beneficiary. They don't have enough credits, or their parent's amount is higher, and their parent is deceased, disabled, or retired. So if you think about, you know, coming under a parent as being kind of tethered to them, once your parent's retirement book is open, then if you have a disability prior to age 22 and you're over the age of 18, you can potentially receive a benefit under your parent. But once you become legally married to a non-Title II beneficiary, so Title II is SSDI, if you become married to somebody who does not receive SSDI, then the attachment to your parent is tethered and you stand on your own. So you will find people who haven't worked before. You would wonder, why are they getting this benefit? And it's because they're attached to their parents' record. SSDI comes with medical insurance, Medicare. People wait 24 months for their Medicare insurance to kick in. There's Part A, which is free, and then Part B and D come with premiums, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. There's also a 5-month waiting period for cash benefits to start. So people have gone through a very lengthy process to come onto the SSDI rolls, and this does play a part in their concerns about whether or not to give up these benefits. SSA pays very close attention to SGA during and after eligibility, and we're going to talk about that for the rest of our hour today. But it is also important to know that SSDI has no asset limit. So other benefits a person receives may have an asset limit. For example, if they're receiving a Medicaid benefit or a food stamp benefit or any other kind of support that has income and asset benefits. But SSDI does not have such a requirement. everybody who comes onto the SSDI rolls is going to receive a continuing disability review. And this happens whether you get SSDI or SSI. This is Social Security's way of making sure that the person continues to meet that definition of disability. They continue to have that documented medical disability that prevents them from working at a substantial level. And so people will receive a request in the mail to fill out the information, and they're going to want to be thoughtful in their response to it, and they're going to want to make sure that they are advising Social Security of the ways that their medical condition continues to prevent them from working. If you work with anybody that has kind of a cyclical implications of their disability, then these can be very concerning to them. And at the very end, we're going to talk just for a few minutes about the Ticket to Work program, and that's the one benefit that the Ticket to Work program can really offer, which is a suspension of these medical reviews while you're making your return to work and while your ticket is assigned. So let's just briefly remind ourselves of the important points about SSDI before we head into the work incentives. One is that SSDI is really quite obsessed with substantial gainful activity. We're going to talk about it a lot today. People will continually be monitored, which is why folks get that idea in their head of this ceiling of earnings that they're allowed to earn. Social Security will be reviewing people not only for their documented medical disability, but they'll also be looking at the other side of that definition. What does your work effort look like? And when folks are able to show a pattern of working at the substantial gainful activity level, and that's going to be countable earnings at that level, which we're going to talk about, then the person's benefits can cease and they can come off of the rolls. And a reminder that there's no asset limit for SSDI. And I don't know about you guys, but I wrote down the SGA numbers for 2017 for myself because, true to what I advised, I don't memorize the numbers each year. Rather, I always make sure that I have them written down so I can tell people the right number for the right year. So under both programs, Social Security offers quite a few work incentives, and we offered you this side-by-side glance so that you can see that many times people treat SSDI and SSI as if they're the same, but you can see as you go down this list of work incentives that the programs are really quite different. They do have some work incentives in common, and they do share the definition of disability. But beyond that, the programs are very different, and that's why we're going to teach you about them over the course of 2 separate webinars so that you can keep the information separate. SSDI has the trial work period, the extended period of eligibility, impairment-related work expenses, and subsidies, all of which we're going to talk about today. Some of the other work incentives we're not going to get to. We just don't have time in our short time together. But there's a great resource online, the Red Book, which just came out in a new version today or within the last couple days. And if you just Google SSA Red Book, you will get an overview of all of these work incentives online. And I don't know if Spanish came out today, but they typically have it also come out in Spanish. So let's dive into the work incentives that we're going to talk about today. And in the interest of time, I'm just going to skip this one and keep us moving. So we're going to start with the trial work period. So when an individual is determined eligible for SSDI, they're entitled to a 9-month trial work period that gives them a chance to test their work skills while maintaining their monthly cash benefit. Now that's the full amount of their benefit check. Unlike SSI, SSDI is an all-or-nothing program, so an individual is entitled to their full cash benefit or none of their cash benefit. And during the trial work period, the individual is entitled to their full cash benefit regardless of how much money is earned. So these 9 months do not have to happen all in a row. A person gets 5 years, 60 consecutive months, under which they can accumulate 9 months of trial work. And the reason why they do this over 60 months, and it's what is called a rolling 60 months, which is a level of detail we don't need to get into, is because Social Security recognizes that folks who are on SSDI oftentimes have had work experience and even careers, and understanding what their capacity is to return to work may take some testing. So the trial work period gives people a chance to do just that, to try work. One of their months at work is only going to count as a trial work month if they earn $840 or more in that month, and that's a number for 2017. So if the individual goes to work and that month they earn $500, it counts for nothing. During the trial work period, if the individual goes to work and that month they earn $5,000, then they are still eligible for their full cash benefit for that month. So the trial work period amount of $840 is not a ceiling, it's a basement, and the individual can earn any amount of money. I'm going to sit here for just a second to tell you that I've been talking about Social Security benefits for really 17 years now, and I can tell you that understanding the trial work period is really important. Most people blow through this time period before they ever realize that they even have it. They pick up small jobs, they do seasonal work, they try jobs, they don't work out, so folks don't always know that they have this time period. If I incurred a disability that prevented me from working tomorrow, knock on wood, I would use this trial work period very seriously. I would want to explore what I think the right kind of work is for me. I would want to get myself prepared to go and do that, and I would want to use this time period to literally test my ability, really my bandwidth. What is my physical ability going to be around the job, stamina, the flexibility of everything that's going to need to be done. So it's an important time period. Many people that you meet and many of you on the line have likely used your trial work period without ever knowing about it. But remember, this is a time where people can earn any amount of money. It only counts as one of the 9 months if the person earns $840 or more in that month. And you have 5 years that Social Security will look over the course of 5 years. They really look back in time to see over 5 years, did you have 9 months where you made over the trial work period amount or more? And those will count, and that's how people use up their 9 months. So once the trial work period is completed, we move on to the extended period of eligibility. But you want to make sure that folks have actually used that 9 months of trial work period, and the way that you can do that is by requesting a benefits planning query from the Social Security Administration. It's also called a BPQY, and the BPQY advises on the individual's disability status, what their cash benefit looks like, what kind of health insurance they're receiving, when their next continuing disability review should be, if they're using a rep payee, and very importantly, their work history, which means it'll show not where they worked, but what earnings are on record for them over what period of time, and how many trial work period months have been used. These aren't always perfect documents, so it's beneficial to also talk, you know, if it's your own BPQI, to review it to see, is this accurate? Are they missing some earnings that I had? And then it's also important to talk to people to see if this looks like a factual assessment. Social Security will provide a BPQI to any of you on the line who are beneficiaries at no charge, or to your rep payees if you have one. If you are a service provider on the line, you can request it, but Social Security can choose to charge you. So it's really great to have the individual request it themselves. So you're probably wondering, how do I request it? So we gave you some information on that. I suggest you call 1-800-772-1213 for the Social Security toll-free number. If you need the TTY line, it's 1-800-325-0778, and let them know that you'd like to request your benefits planning query or BPQY, and they will walk you through what needs to be done. When you receive it, you're going to want to make sure that you are using it wisely. So we could recommend that you take your BPQI and meet with a benefits counselor or a work incentive coordinator under one of the work incentive planning and assistance projects, and we're going to connect you to them later. These folks can help you really make sense of the BPQI and affirm for you some of the things we are going to learn today, but also give you more detailed information than what we're going to get into today and help you make a really good informed choice about how much you can work, at what level you're going to work, and what work incentives, very importantly, what work incentives you're going to use as you move forward. So we know about the trial work period. We've pulled a BPQI and confirmed that, yes, the 9 months of trial work period have been used over a 5-year period. And so as soon as the last trial work period month has been used, the very next month begins the extended period of eligibility. Now, the extended period of eligibility is a 36-month period. Once it starts, there's no stopping this train from moving forward. So unlike the trial work period where, you know, we knew people were going to test and you kind of get 5 years to use up 9 months, the EPE, extended period of eligibility, is 36 months all in a row. So even if you are hospitalized for a medical condition, you can't work, your extended period of eligibility keeps on moving. So, but this is another protective period where Social Security looks and says, go ahead and go to work, and if you are over the SGA amount, you are not entitled to your cash benefits. If you're under the SGA amount, you are entitled. But you can go over and under during this 36-month period without having to reapply for benefits. So it gives you a continued chance to try and test your work skills and get into the right job for you. There's a few important things that happens during the extended period of eligibility. One is called cessation. So when countable wages first exceed the SGA level, that's the cessation month. And the individual will remain eligible for a 3-month grace period, the cessation month plus the next 2 months. So countable wages above SGA beyond the cessation month and grace period may result in loss of SSDI cash benefit eligibility. So this really happens at, this is kind of the start of the end of a person's time on the rolls. So that means that they're looking to see, do you have a moment in time where you exceeded the SGA level and you've used up your 36-month extended period of eligibility? And if that happens, then they start to look at termination. When the extended period of eligibility is complete, a person earning gross wages below SGA will continue to receive a benefit check as long as medical eligibility continues. If a person has countable wages above SGA after the EPE is completed, benefits may terminate. So this is where individuals get really concerned. The trial work period is great. You have all this room to work and earn as much money as you want, but then the extended period of eligibility starts, and it does create a path to a point in time where if you are continuing to work and earn over the SGA level for that year, then your benefits may terminate. It doesn't mean that your health care will terminate right away, but your cash benefit will terminate. If you're on the line and you're self-employed, or if you're working for folks who are self-employed, the rules are a bit different, and so you want to work with a benefit planner who understands self-employment. But I just want to make sure you remember that all of this happens in a row. So even if at the end of your 9-month trial work period you decide work is not for me, I'm not going to continue working, or, you know, my medical condition is just not permitting it right now, once that 9 month of trial work is done, the extended period of eligibility begins. So that means that some of you on the line, or some of the people that you're working with who have completed their 9 months of trial work period, they're already into their extended period of eligibility. And understanding where they are in that process is very, very important. So some of you may be feeling, well, what is the point of all this? It starts to get really concerning, and it's a little bit confusing. So we wanted to give you a timeline to kind of make sense of this. And then don't worry, we're going to talk about some work incentives that help people to be able to manage all of this. So you can see in our SSDI timeline, we have the trial work period, which is going to go for 9 months over a 5-year period. So we made it look a little short, but it could actually be a very long period of time. So people can earn any amount of money and still receive their cash benefit. And if they earn $840 or more in the month, they've just used up one of their 9 months of trial work. Then we start into the EPE, and Social Security watches for the first time that a person earns over the SGA amount, and that first time is their cessation month, and it starts a 3-month grace period. So you can kind of consider that this, and during the grace month and during the cessation month, and grace period, which is a total of 3 months, you will still get your cash benefit regardless of whether or not you're over SGA. So if you're, well, you have to be over SGA. So if you're over SGA, you will still get your full cash benefit. So you really get a year where you can earn as much money as you like and still keep your cash benefit. But the grace and cessation months are going to also note that at the end of your extended period of eligibility, that's when your benefits would stop. So, for example, if somebody went through the 36 months of the extended period of eligibility and they didn't go over SGA until month 35, then month 35 would be their cessation month, and they would have that month plus 2-month grace period, and then their cash benefits would stop. So this can be a little bit confusing. It's why it's really great to have a benefit planner in your corner that you can meet with. Or if you're on the line and you're interested in becoming a benefits planner, please reach out to me. I'm happy to give you a couple of options of how you might be able to do that. So this timeline is why people get very concerned about making the return to work and really need good benefits planning to make an informed decision. But there are some other things that happen under the Social Security return to work rules, particularly the next couple of work incentives that we're going to share. The first is impairment-related work expenses, or IRWEs. IRWEs allow you to deduct the things you pay for yourself because of your disability to go to work. It has to meet those 3 rules. It also has to be reasonable. You have to pay yourself out of your own pocket. And it has to be purchased in the month that you're working, or you have to get special permission to extend the cost over several months, which you can work with a claims rep to do. So IRWEs kind of act a little bit like tax deductions. The items that you're paying for to go to work because of your disability, you can keep the receipts and turn them in with your wages and have them deducted. So I wanted to give you a little example of this. I'll come back to the items. So let's say John is working and he's earning $1,200 per month in gross wages. And he's currently in his extended period of eligibility. So he's over, not by much, but he's over this year's SGA limit of $1,170. He has out-of-pocket expenses related to his disability that he pays for himself to go to work. He pays $150 per month for paratransit services, and he needs that. He pays for it himself to go to work because of his disability. So Social Security would approve the IRWE, deduct the $150 from the $1,200 per month, and John's countable wages are now $1,050. So even though John appeared to be earning above the SGA level, the IRWE brought his countable earnings below the SGA level, and John remains eligible for his full cash benefit. There are a lot of things that can be deducted as IRWEs: transportation costs, attendant care services, medical devices, prosthesis, residential modifications. So if you need to modify your home to get out of your home to go to work, that can count. Drugs and routine medical services. So remember, this is SSDI, so people are using Medicare, so they may have costs for their drugs and routine medical services. And even if the drug is, say, used on days the person doesn't go to work, there's not like a nickel and dime approach to this. The full cost of the drug is covered. Also diagnostic procedures, non-medical appliances and devices, expendable medical supplies, and the cost of a service animal, including food, licenses, and veterinary services. So all of these IRWs can be deducted from a person's countable wages in an effort to recognize that people may have to pay things to go to work because of their disability, and it will then reduce their earnings to a lower countable wage level, which may bring them under the SGA amount. A second important work incentive is called subsidy. A subsidy allows you to deduct the value of extra support you receive at no cost. So this may exist when an employer provides accommodations, support, or extra supervision, when the employer customizes a job to meet your individual needs, or when an employer allows lower productivity for the same job at the same wage. I could have argued when I first joined NDI I have anxiety, and NDI thought I would travel all across the country giving trainings, which I do now, but at the time I could not manage. But that was what all the staff did, and when I joined NDI, they agreed that I would not be required to fly because I could not manage that with my anxiety, and instead I stayed just in Florida and drove around Florida doing the trainings and the contract work that we had in Florida. So really NDI provided a subsidy to me, and had I been receiving SSDI at the time, I could have worked with my claims rep to advise what that meant I wasn't required to do under NDI and what kind of a value that had. But this can also happen when people receive support from an agency. So if an agency assists in securing employment, provides accommodations the person needs on the job, supports the person in getting to work, or provides on-the-job supports like a job coach, then the value of that can be deducted. And they do that pretty easily by saying what are the number of hours that support is provided, multiplied by the wage of the beneficiary. So not by the wage of the service provider, but by the wage of the beneficiary. And these can be done with the claims rep. So we gave you a little example here. Jake works for a restaurant making $12.60 per month and is well liked by his employer. He has some physical limitations that prevent him from lifting the grills that are cleaned daily, and one of his coworkers handles this task for everybody. While this is a normal part of Jake's job requirements, the employer has accommodated Jake by having another employee take on this task. Jake is also allowed to arrive later than normal as a family member drives him to work since he can't drive and public transportation is not available. Jake has used his trial work period and a grace period has been established. He is midway through his extended period of eligibility. So in this example, Jake's $12.60 per month is more than the 2017 SGA level of $11.70. And so based on the $12.60, you would say, well, he's not eligible for his cash benefits. But because of the subsidy, we're going to fill out the work activity questionnaire and evaluate what kind of support he's receiving. And then we'll be able to use this to advise Social Security on the fact that Jake is receiving some subsidies. And SSA will determine the value of that and deduct this amount from Jake's gross wages, which they use to evaluate whether or not he's meeting the SGA level. So both of these work incentives can be very helpful. In this case, we assumed that Social Security made a 20% deduction, and Jake's countable wages went from $12.60 down to $1,008. So we offer you a basic rule of thumb because we want to make sure you know that you can layer work incentives. You don't have to use them one at a time. It's just always a person's gross wages minus all of the work incentives they're going to use. So Jake may have had $150 in transportation, you know, kind of like the cost that John had, the subsidy that the employer was providing, and maybe he still had a job coach that checked on him maybe just intermittently throughout the month. the value of all those things would you would want to put forward as work incentives, and it would be gross wages minus the value of the work incentives equal countable wages. Sometimes people wonder why Social Security does this, and I always view it like a bridge. You know, Social Security is assuming that the bridge can hold 1,170 pounds a month. And if the bridge can manage more than that, they want to know what's sturdying the bridge to be able to do that. So you're basically letting Social Security know, I know that it looks like I can work and earn over this level of money, but if you take away the employer that provides me support, if you take away the agency that provides me support, if you take away all my gateway costs to going to work, I'm not really able to earn that much. All of those have a value that get deducted, and it allows Social Security to see the real picture of what the person's substantial gainful abilities are. So when you report IRWIs and subsidies to the Social Security Administration, you're going to be wanting to bring to them your pay stubs along with the receipts for any of the IRWIs and documentation on the subsidies that you've been providing. It's a great opportunity to work with the claims rep to really understand what kind of materials is going to work for them. And if you feel like you're not understanding what the claims rep wants, this is where benefit planners can be really helpful. Also, if you Google NDI wage reporting, we created a form that can also help people understand a bit. It's really one we did for SSI, but it's got a lot of good information that would apply to SSDI as well. So you want to make sure that you're reporting every month and that you're turning in any work incentives that you have as well. So the individual, or if you're on the line, you've gone through this work process, and let's say you do reach a point where you are not going to be entitled to your cash benefit. You're immediately going to want to know what's going to happen to my Medicare. And your Medicare coverage is going to continue during the trial work period and for at least 93 months following the 9th trial work period. So during this entire period, the hospital coverage is automatic and cost-free, and then your Part B coverage, which is your outpatient coverage, continues to be optional and subject to a premium. And for 2017, that Part B premium is $134 per month. Now, some of you on the line may be getting another benefit that covers this Part B premium or even covers your Part D premium, and I'm sorry, but we didn't have time to go over that today, but that is something else that a work incentive coordinator or a benefit planner can help you with. So for individuals on SSDI that go to work, the Medicare insurance is going to continue for at least 102 months, and then after that, we would hope that you went on to employer's coverage, especially in our current state of medical coverage in the U.S. But if you are not able to do that, you can also purchase Medicare beyond this period of time. And then people wonder, well, that's great. Okay, maybe I'm gonna make the leap. I'm gonna find gainful employment and return to work. I'm gonna take the 102 months of Medicare that I have and figure out what's the right health insurance coverage for me. But what happens if I am not able to stay on the job? If my medical condition takes a turn or I reach a point where my disability doesn't allow me to work? And that's where Social Security offers Expedited Reinstatement, or EXR. EXR provides a significant level of protection to both SSDI and SSI beneficiaries who return to work and have their benefits terminated due to gainful work activity. So you've worked your way off of the Social Security rolls. That's exciting. You've worked your way off of the rolls. But if you need to come back on, you can be reinstated under EXR without a new application if you were eligible for SSDI, you lost SSDI due to returning to work, not because of any other reason, but because you returned to work, and you request EXR within the 60-month period beginning with the month of termination. So it's been less than 5 years since you're terminated from the rolls. So those are the conditions. And then what happens, oh, sorry, I must have taken out that slide. What happens is that Social Security will reinstate your benefits for 6 months while they do a review of your situation. And if they determine that you continue to meet the SSA definition of disability, then you come back onto the rolls. If they don't make that decision, they say, no, we've determined you're not eligible for SSDI, then you would not come back on the rolls, but you do not have to pay back the 6 months of provisional benefits that you received. So EXR is a safety net. You always have the option of applying through a new application. You can reapply that way, but EXR is a slightly less intensive review, and it provides you with those 6-month provisional benefits. So it can be a really wonderful safety net. I just want to make sure you know briefly about your responsibilities when you return to work. You do agree when you receive Social Security disability insurance that you will be communicative with the Social Security Administration and that you will advise them when you do have earnings. So you're going to need to report to your local field office the name of your employer, the number of hours per week you'll be working and your hourly wage, or your annual salary if that's the type of job that you obtained, the date you start your new job and the end date if applicable, and your Social Security number. You always want to make sure with any correspondence to the Social Security Administration that you are including your Social Security number. So once your wages start coming in, you want to provide that to Social Security monthly by providing a copy of your paycheck stubs. Keep your originals. Don't turn in your originals. And that data can be faxed, hand-delivered, or mailed to them. You want to make sure you write your Social Security number on the paycheck stub and your name if not already printed on the check stub. And you want to make sure that everything that you send to the Social Security Administration and everything that you get from them that you're keeping a copy of. So make sure that that is something that you keep very good files about, a file box that you keep in your house, even a drawer. You just want to make sure that you're keeping track of that. You also want to make sure that you're opening things from Social Security in a very timely manner. The things they send are often time limited, and you don't want to miss out on being able to advocate for yourself because you missed the time period. We did a survey of folks in the state of Texas who advised that in addition to information on public benefits, they would also like to know a little bit more about available employment supports. So I want to take just a minute to share with you some of those. One is the Texas Medicaid buy-in, and as I shared earlier, the Texas Medicaid buy-in is just for folks in Texas. It's a way to offer low-cost medical health services, including community-based services and supports to individuals with disabilities who return to work. And some people in the program might have to pay a monthly fee. So to be eligible in the state of Texas, you have to have a disability, you have to be working, you have to live in Texas, and you have to not live in a state institution or nursing home all of the time. If you get Social Security disability benefits, you already meet their eligibility criteria for the first one, person has a disability. For those of you not in the state of Texas, you want to check your own home state about their own buy-in. It goes by different names in different states, so it's a good idea to reach out to your state Medicaid office to ask them what the options are. Just to get back to Texas for another minute, in the state of Texas, the amount of money you earn each month must be less than $2,453, and there are some things that they don't count, like plan to achieve self-support, which we're going to talk about during our webinar on May 30th, earned income tax credit and child tax credit payments, and work expenses due to a disability, which you've kind of heard a bit about that already. There's also an asset limit for the Medicaid buy-in, and that asset limit is $2,000. And so I hope if you're thinking of joining the Texas Medicaid buy-in that you'll join us in our third webinar, which we'll send out information about, to learn more about ABLE accounts, which for qualifying individuals could be a protected place to put your assets so it doesn't count against things like the Texas Medicaid buy-in. So if you're in the state of Texas and you want to apply for the Texas Medicaid buy-in, we gave you the links to download the application form. You can also find these very easily by Googling Texas Medicaid buy-in. You can also today call 211 and ask to have Form H1200 mailed to you. That's H like happy, 1200. And you can pick up an application form at Texas HHSC benefits offices, so you can call 211 to find one of those near you. And then once you do your application, you're going to want to take it back to one of those HHSC benefits office, or we gave you the information to fax it or to mail it. And again, we'll be sending these slides out to you. If you need any help with this, just call 211. It's free, and you can press 2 to get more information. I also want to make sure we mentioned benefits planning and the work incentive planning and assistance projects and work incentive coordinators several times today. So I want to make sure you know how to reach those folks. The Choose Work website, that's Choose, CHOOSEWORK, choosework.net, and they have a Find Help button. And when you go to that Find Help button, you can locate the WIPAs in your local area. These folks are there to help you make an informed decision about work. They provide services to SSDI and SSI beneficiaries ages 14 to 65, along with parents and guardians of such folks, service providers, and other supports. And they're an excellent resource for helping you to really dig into these rules and make them understand how they apply to you and use them in a way that's going to be most beneficial to your return to work. If you reach any trouble in this return to work, you might want to know who can I turn to for protection and advocacy. And advocates are available to provide assistance with the following at no cost: access to community services, special education and transition, transportation, housing, and health care, disability benefits and work incentives, rights and conditions of employment, vocational rehabilitation, issues under the American Disabilities Act, and wage and hour issues. So in Texas, it's Disability Rights Texas. For those of you in other states, you can return to the website www.choosework.net, and again, hit that Find Help button, and you'll be looking for the PABSS, P-A-B-S-S. And then in each state, there's different employment programs. Every state has vocational rehabilitation. These folks can help you make your way back to employment, particularly for individuals who have a disability and have, you know, are going to need some support in getting back to work. In the state of Texas, there's also independent living services for older individuals who are blind. Purchasing from people with disabilities, so if you're on the line and you're a small business owner, that's going to be a good resource for you, and Business Enterprises of Texas. And in the state of Texas, you can reach these programs by going to www.twc.tx.us/partners/programs-people-disabilities. And then, as promised, there's also the Ticket to Work program. Many of you have heard of the Ticket to Work program. It was big, then it was small. I'd argue that's probably on the rise again. The Ticket to Work program gives you an opportunity for you to choose for yourself which service providers you want to provide your return to work services. And you can choose from a long list of employment networks. Some provide services just in your state. Some provide services nationally. The benefit of the Ticket to Work program is that you have choice in who your service provider is, and you have protection from the continuing disability review as long as your ticket is assigned and you're actively working on your plan. To learn more, you can go to www.chooseworkttw.net, or you can call the helpline at 1-866-968-7842, or for TTY, it's 866-833-2967. And then because we're a National Disability Institute and we believe that your employment should be intrinsically tied to your economic goals, so what do you want your life to look like is a great starting point. And based on that life, how will you gain the money you need for that life? And then what kind of job do you need to gain that money to have the life that you want. So we wanted to leave you with some financial capability resources. One is a tool to help you set goals and just spend a little time dreaming about what you want your life to look like. And that's available free from us at NDI at ndi.elogiclearning.com. The course you want to take is Steps to Achieving My American Dream, but all the courses there are free, and you're welcome to do any of them that you like. Another important component of building back your financial life is securing any money that's owed to you through free tax preparation. You can claim your earned income tax credit, your child care tax credit, and your general tax refund. And United Way provides those services throughout the state of Texas. You can check them out at www.uwtexas.org/supporting-Texans-tax-time. And then in the state of Texas, you have this incredible Texas Financial Toolbox, Financial Education, which has wonderful resources in it. I was really impressed as I looked through, and you can check that out at www.texasfinancialtoolbox.com. And finally, you are very lucky in Texas to have Raise Texas. They're an asset building organization who provides you with a multitude of resources. One includes where you can find asset building programs in your local area, and those programs help you think about what your asset building goal is, how to get your credit in order to reach that goal, any kind of financial education, kind of all the wraparound support you're going to need to make that asset building goal a reality. And you can turn to them at raisetexas.org/resources. So I'll just leave you with a few suggested action steps before I turn it back over to our facilitator, Katie. And one is that I really encourage you to explore the available employment support programs that we mentioned. They're there to support you, and they can offer some really great pathways back to work. Do meet with a benefits planner. Even if it's going to take some time, it's going to be well worth it for you to have the kind of information you need to make an informed choice, or for you to support people that you're serving in making an informed choice about the impact of work on their benefits. Complete one of the financial capability activities we gave you. So we actually offered you quite a few, but if you can look at them and just decide on one to do, it's going to feel really great to take a look at your money and to know that you are aligning both what you are going to do for work and what you want to achieve for your life, that you're looking at that in unison, and that's going to help you to really align your employment effort and your financial effort towards the life that you want. And then set a goal to complete items 1, 2, and 3 over the next 3 months, or maybe by the end of summer, so that you can have some action steps to use the information that we provided today. I can't thank you all enough for joining us today and the Texas Council for Developmental Disabilities, and I'm going to hand it back to my colleague, Katie. I think there's some technical difficulties, so I'll just let you all know that you're welcome to reach out to us at National Disability Institute. We're available at realeconomicimpact.org. You can reach Katie Metz at kmetz@ndi-inc.org, or please feel free to reach out to me, Elizabeth Jennings, at ejennings@ndi-inc.org. And I have been watching the chat box, so I'm sorry that we couldn't get to all of the questions that you had today, but it looked like a few of you just wanted some to access the PowerPoint slides, and we're going to be sending out that to you after this event. We're going to pull everybody's email address and send it to you. If you didn't put your email address in when you logged in, just shoot me an email. I'll send you the PowerPoint. I can be reached at ejennings@ndi-inc.org, or connect with Katie Metz at kmetz@ndi-inc.org. And we hope you'll join us in some of our social media areas, realeconomicimpact.org, on Twitter at twitter.com/realeeconimpact, on Facebook at facebook.com/realeconImpact, on YouTube, which is where we post all of our archived webinars. So if you want more on Social Security disability benefits or more on financial capability strategies or a whole host of other topics, check us out at youtube.com/user/realeconomic-impact. And then we're also available on Flickr and Tumblr. I think maybe Katie joined us. Nope, I think those tech troubles are still happening. So I'll say a very good day and thank you all very much. I hope you're able to join us again on May 30th, and we'll be sending out an announcement for that. And until then, I wish you the best of luck in your exploration of this return to work, and hope you'll utilize some of the strategies we talked about today and reach out to us if we can provide you with additional support. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Thank you again.